would like to warmly thank the Oxford Union Society for giving me the opportunity to talk about the political process in Catalonia. A process based on democracy and peaceful attitudes, and also on the right to decide all nations have, among them our nation, Catalonia. From 2010 to 2016, as it has been said, I presided over one of the most ancient but still alive institutions of Europe, the so-called Generalitat. This institution was founded in 1359, in the 14th century, more than 650 years ago. It has represented for centuries the will of the Catalan people for self-government, except during long periods of time when the Generalitat was banned by the Spanish regimes. In order to help you better understand the reasons of the Catalan political process for self-determination, I would like to point out its three main causes. The first one, the permanent will of the Catalan people for self-government, as I mentioned before. The second one, the ruling of the Spanish Constitutional Court in June 2010 that revoked the most essential and sensitive parts of the Statute of Autonomy that had been agreed between the Spanish and the Catalan parliaments and voted by the Catalan people via referendum in 2006, 4 years before the ruling of the Constitutional Court. This severe limitation of our self-government imposed by the court provoked a huge demonstration of more than 1.5 million people carrying banners saying, "We are a nation, we decide." And the third cause is the goal many Catalans have to shape an attractive, fair, and reliable country in the south of Europe. I usually describe it as a Mediterranean Denmark. This is to say, good jobs, fair salaries, low unemployment rate, open, innovative economy, robust and sustainable welfare state, and a high-quality democratic system. To build such a country, you need the right tools, the capacity to make the decisions the states have. This is why we want our own state, because we need the tools to build a very attractive country. A country like Denmark, but of course placed close to the Mediterranean. Together with these causes, I would also like to outline three main characteristics of the political process that is being carried out in Catalonia. The first characteristic is this is a grassroots level movement. It stems from the people, not from the political parties or the public institutions. Second, the request of a referendum on the future of Catalonia and on its relationship with Spain is shared by around 80% of the Catalan population. So there is a broad majority in our country in favor of the right to decide our political future, in favor of a binding referendum. 70% of these people are people with non-Catalan roots. This is a very important point to keep in mind, because it shows that the determination to vote on our future is not an ethnical or nationalist matter. It is a national and social aspiration of a broad majority of the Catalan people, people with diverse origins, cultures, and languages. And third characteristic, it is a strictly democratic and peaceful movement. It started in November 2012 by casting votes at the polling stations, and it will come to an end by voting again in the next few months. Many of us hope that Spain would believe, at least a bit, would behave, at least a bit like the United Kingdom. Only a bit, but it has not. During these 6 last years, we have received no serious offer, neither of real devolution, not of a referendum. Contrary to what the United Kingdom did in 2014 with Scotland, or Canada twice in 1980 and 1995 with Quebec, Madrid has refused to listen. One may even say that while unionist politicians in the United Kingdom tried to convince the Scottish people to vote no and stay with the rest of the kingdom with arguments, unionist Spanish politicians don't even try to convince Catalans, but simply try to avoid that they vote. Unbelievable as it may be for some of the audience, Prime Minister of Spain, Mr. Rajoy, and all the political class except Podemos, a political party in Spain, has refused to accept that the 80% of the Catalan population supports consistently a referendum on self-determination. I said right, 80% of the population. Mr. Rajoy and most of the Spanish political class have since 2012 refused to negotiate a referendum, even if all elections since then have given pro-independence and pro-referendum parties of at least 60% of the seats in the parliament. Particularly since the last Catalan election in September 2015, the Catalan parliament has an explicit pro-independence majority with a clear mandate to celebrate a self-determination referendum and even formally declare independence if need be. On November 9, 2014, my government organized a symbolic referendum, a symbolic consultation on independence that gathered 2.3 million people to the polls. It was an amazing day, probably one of the best of my political life. Against the backdrop of Spain's government's fierce opposition, the Catalan people rebelled in a peaceful manner. The Catalan people rebelled on November 9th, 2014, not by taking the streets, but by going quietly to the polling booths and giving their say on the future of our nation. For that, Spain's reaction has been to launch a judicial process against myself and 3 of my former ministers at the time. The ruling will come soon after a political trial was organized some weeks ago. If this was happening in Poland or Hungary, there would be outrage all around Europe. At the top of the Spanish judicial system, independence seems not to be the general rule. It should come as no surprise to you, the current president of the Constitutional Court in Spain was until some years ago a member of Rajoy's party. The leading candidate to be his substitute goes further than that. Not only was member of the Popular Party, but was an MP of them for 17 years. The day my ministers and I went to the court for the trial, accused of disobedience and malfeasance, criminal charges under the Penal Code, more than 40,000 people were backing us around the building of the court. The atmosphere was impressive, believe me, exciting and touching. I must confess that it brought a lump to my throat. People were saying, "You are not alone." However, mine is not the only political trial going on in Catalonia right now. The President of the Catalan Parliament, Carme Forcadell, and her vice chairs are being prosecuted by Spanish attorney for allowing a debate on independence. Yes, allowing a debate in a parliament, not for embezzlement, not for using physical violence, but for doing their job and allow Catalan MPs to pass a political resolution on independence. Spain justice is so politicized against the Catalan democratic movement that there is a pro-independence town councillor who is being judged on the ground because he said that in order to do an omelette, first you need to break the eggs, in a plenary session in his town. As he refused to appear in the court, the Spanish police brought him to Madrid handcuffed in a 6-hour trip. The fact is that lacking ideas and the will to negotiate a political solution, the Spanish government led by Mariano Rajoy uses judiciary and the deep state against Catalan pro-independence politicians. The former Spanish Minister of Interior organized something called Operación Catalunya, Catalan operation. Through it, policemen, confidence, and millions of public money have been used to investigate and go against the leading politicians in the Catalan independence movement, many times committing illegalities even. With the help of Madrid-based media, all kinds of lies have thrown to our movement. The head of the government, the head of the Spanish government, was, of course, aware of all this. Adding insult to injury, after doing all this and refusing to listen to the will of the Catalan people, the Spanish Prime Minister still claims to be a champion of political dialogue. Taking into account all this, the current President of Catalonia, Carles Puigdemont, has committed our government to organize a binding referendum in September this year, maybe before. Mr. Rajoy keeps refusing to negotiate the binding referendum that a clear majority of the Catalan Parliament and society want, and its government menaces with suspending our autonomy and using the police to stop the people going to the polls. In front of all these threats, it must be clear, our government will not backtrack, and in defense of democracy, the referendum will be held. The threat of force to stop the referendum is a disgrace for Spain, Europe, and the Western world. Instead of learning from the United Kingdom or Canada for a democratic inspiration, the Spanish government denies the right to decide of the Catalan people and treats the Catalan nation as a territorial extremity from Spain. The Spanish state of denial, the British people know quite well thanks to Gibraltar. There, the Spanish government keeps boycotting the people from Gibraltar in their daily life, keep calling for the unification of Gibraltar with Spain, and consistently deny the will of 96% of the people who voted to remain part of the United Kingdom. The behavior of Spain, consistent from Gibraltar to Catalonia, is deeply troubling from a democratic and European point of view. Mr. Rajoy will not offer anything worth the name to the Catalan people, but some may wonder why other political forces in Spain are not able to offer a federal reform that may be acceptable to Catalonia. The answer is plain and simple. There is a huge gap in preferences between the rest of Spain and Catalonia. While in Catalonia and Euskadi, the Basque Country, consistently all polls give between 2/3 and 80% of support for a self-determination or a federal state, the figures for the rest of Spain are dismaying. According to Spain's official pollster, no region has 20% of its population supporting a federal solution for the state. Can Catalans force the rest of Spain to become federalized? I think that would be very unwise. In Catalonia, we respect the Brexit decision and referendum. We praise the democratic spirit of UK politicians who dare to ask the people what kind of relation they wanted to have with the rest of the European Union. However, as committed pro-European, we are deeply disappointed to see how the United Kingdom, one of the more liberal-minded and democratic countries in the European Union, leaves the club. Without you, and with the populist wave that is raging around Europe, both in the right and the left political spectrum, small and free trading nations like Catalonia will be a bit lonely. We hope that we will be able to turn the Brexit into a win-win for all the British and European people. In any case, it is good to be here in the Oxford, to be here in the United Kingdom, and to be here in the Oxford Union. And let me say, to be in a room like this one, where Dr. Trueta taught a lot of people, a Catalan professor who fought deeply for democracy and for self-determination and for the dignity of all nations in the world, including, of course, his nation, Catalonia. This is a place where everyone can understand that in the 21st century, when two nations don't understand each other and don't share the same goals, the best solution is to let people vote, and if need be, to have an amicable and peaceful divorce. If the Spanish state does not put any attractive offer on the table, we will have to choose between two options: the current statu quo or an independent Catalan state within the European framework. For me, the choice is clear. In the next few months, the determination to hold a referendum will face strong difficulties and a harsh opposition of the Spanish government. We will have to do our best, or better than this, as Churchill said. Sometimes it is not enough to do your best, you must do what is required. Thank you very much for your attention.
Great. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll begin by asking some of my own questions before passing over to students in the audience. And my first question to you is just with regards to what you said towards the end of your speech, which is if Spain doesn't put a good offer on the table, do you think Catalonian and Spanish government are able to find a compromise that will persuade Catalonia to stay as part of Spain for the time being?
Well, let me say that the attitude from the Catalan institutions is, in this sense, a positive and constructive attitude, in the sense that we would like to have a fair negotiation, we would like to sit down at the table and to talk about everything. What does everything mean? Everything means we could talk about the date of the referendum, we could talk about the question to be posed or questions to be posed. and we could talk about the conditions of the referendum. As you can check, this is an open attitude and a positive one. But our problem right now is that on the other side, there is nobody willing to talk with us and to negotiate the terms of a referendum. When I was president of the Catalan government and I went to Madrid to talk to Mr. Rajoy, and I put on the table the need to hold a referendum and to find the democratic solutions for Catalonia and for Spain, the answer of the Spanish government was, there is nothing to talk and negotiate about this issue. If there is nothing to talk about this issue, you cannot negotiate. You cannot negotiate, because there is nobody at the other side of the table. This is the main problem we have. So the main challenge is to put pressure on the Spanish institutions and the Spanish government in order to convince them that the good solution for Spain, and of course for Catalonia, and maybe for Europe, is to have a fair negotiation and to talk about the issue. And the issue is the will of the Catalan people to vote through a referendum and to vote on the political future of the country.
Are you prepared to have a referendum that does not pose a question of Catalonia leaving Spain?
If we are prepared to have this referendum with, you mean with two questions? Or
so a referendum that would not have a question of whether Catalonia should leave Spain or not, but roughly to reconsider the
well, this
the position.
this would be difficult. This would be difficult to accept for us. Why? Because in September 2015, 1 year and a half ago, we had elections in Catalonia. These elections were plebiscitary elections. Our will was to count votes in favor or against independence. The turnout of the elections in September 2015 was the highest in history. 75% of the Catalan people went voting. And the outcome of the plebiscitary elections was absolute majority in the Catalan parliament in favor of independence. So, from a democratic point of view, if you have your own parliament with an absolute majority in favor of independence, this question has to be on the table if there is a referendum. But then the compromise could be, apart from the question on the independence of Catalonia, another question could be posed together with the other. And that other question could be the proposal of the Spanish institutions to try to keep Catalonia within Spain. Nobody, the Spanish institutions and the Spanish government are legally able and politically able to put an offer on the table, but they don't. They could do so, but they don't. So right now there are two options, as I said in my speech. One option is to keep our statu quo. The other option is independence. If there is a third option, this is something that the Spanish government and the Spanish parliament have to put on the table and give the possibility to the Catalan population to vote on that subject.
Let's take a step back, and I want to hear your thoughts on sort of the main reasons for Catalonian independence. What is your personal main motivation of Catalonia's self-determination? Is it to do with your economic reasons, or nationalist, or populist, or something else?
I would say that there are many reasons. Sometimes our rivals say that the only goal we have is to keep all the money. But it is not true. Of course, the economic consequences are important for everybody, also for the Catalan people. But it is not only a matter of economy or money. It is also a cultural matter, a linguistic matter, an identity matter, and basically, essentially, it is the purpose to build an attractive country for the future. In my speech, I said we would like to build the Denmark of the south of Europe. This is something that it is not easy to do. Sometimes when I try to give these, to send these messages to the Catalan population, I always say to build the Denmark of the south of Europe probably is something that has to be done by a generation of people, 20, 25 years, not less than that. But we have the assets, we have the people, we have the energy, and we have the ideas to build such an attractive country. But we need the tools. We need the capacity to take decisions ourselves, in our parliament, and not to depend on everything that happens in another parliament. Although we are pro-European, and being pro-European means that you have to be willing to share powers at the federal European level. And we are willing to do so. But we need the tools, and we don't have the tools, the right tools to build an attractive country.
And as you said, just a few weeks ago there were hearings on your trial. To what extent do you think the Catalans have been re-galvanized by these trials? And do you think that the referendum might become possible as a result of these separatist movements?
In my opinion, these kind of trials fuel the process, the political process for independence. Because a lot of people simply don't understand that their democratic representatives are judged under the penal code because they let people vote. Let me add another important argument. When we held the non-binding consultation in November 2014, we said that it was non-binding, so it was a consultation with no legal consequences. And for that non-binding consultation, 4 members of the former Catalan government are being judged under the penal code. In my particular case, if I'm convicted, I can be barred from public positions for 10 years. And my mistake was to listen to people and to let people vote. Nothing else than that. So a lot of people in Catalonia that are against independence also see what is happening from a democratic point of view. And because they are Democrats, they don't understand these kind of reactions.
Would you anticipate the result of trials to be?
I don't know, offhand.
Right. Well,
I haven't any clue. We'll see.
Well, let's look at the sort of overall situation in Europe and the West. And there's a lot of commotion and instability in the world today with the rise of right-wing populist parties in Europe, Donald Trump in the United States. How do you feel about sort of your movement being grouped together with what's happening elsewhere across Europe and the United States?
This is a risk for us. This is a real risk, because some people try to compare what is happening in Catalonia with other with other processes in other parts of Western Europe. But let me say that it would be a big mistake to think that these kind of processes are similar, because the Catalan process in favor of self-determination is a non-populist process. The other day there was a huge demonstration in Barcelona. Many people gathered there asking for refugees. If you analyze what do the populist movements in Europe mean, you will reach the conclusion that these kind of movements ask not to accept refugees. They are against Europe. Sometimes they are against the euro. And in the Catalan case, it's exactly the opposite way around. We are pro-European, we want the euro, and we want refugees. And we understand that we have to implement measures of austerity according to the European regulations. So it's a completely different story.
And having said that, most political parties in Western Europe would be against Catalonia becoming independent for a number of different reasons. And with France, Spain and Portugal potentially grouping up in the event that Catalonia becomes independent to blackmail Catalonia, are you not afraid that you'll be economically worse off as a result?
When a country tries to be independent, at the beginning, the majority of the rest of the countries are against. At the beginning, they are reluctant. But with the passing of the time, they accept the reality. If there is a broad majority in Catalonia in favor of the creation of a new state, that will be a reality in Europe in the future. So, if this will be a reality, it's better for everybody to sit down at the table and negotiate the terms of the creation of the new Catalan state. Because the attitude of the Catalan politicians, political parties and institutions, as I said before, is a very positive and constructive attitude. So it's better for everybody to sit down at the table and negotiate everything. But of course, if they don't know if we will be strong enough to reach independence, at the beginning, they prefer not to have an additional problem on the tables, because they have a lot of problems on the table. So if they can avoid an additional problem, it's better for them. And I fully understand that the creation of a new state in Europe is an additional problem on the European table.
So, President Mas, one more question from me, but I'm sure it's a question that bothers hundreds of millions of people, not just in Spain, Catalonia, but worldwide. In the event of Catalonian independence, which league would FC Barcelona join?
In the British one?
We would certainly welcome them. I can guarantee you that. Thank you, Mr. President.
We have an advantage in this sense. In all countries, they would like to have Barca in their leagues.
I'm sure Manchester United and Chelsea would object, but anyhow. Excellent. I will now let students ask their questions. So if you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand and wait for one of the committee members to bring the microphone over to you. If we can have the hand of a back with a membership card. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to ask you about the language issue in Catalonia. So if Catalonia became independent, as you plan and wish, what do you think the future of the Spanish language will be in an independent Catalonia? Can you guarantee that speakers of Spanish, which happen to be a majority, whether you like it or not, and I imagine you don't,
yeah.
Can you guarantee they won't be discriminated against? Thank you.
Yeah. The social reality in Catalonia from the linguistic point of view is that we are bilingual. There are two languages, Catalan and Spanish. Catalan, let me say, is our own language. If you talk about the own language of Catalonia, this is Catalan. But being our own language, it is not our only language. As I said before in my speech, 70% of the Catalan population have non-Catalan roots. That means that their parents or their grandparents were not born in Catalonia. And this is our social reality. And we have to respect this reality. And we have to defend this reality, also from the linguistic point of view. So in my view, this is a personal opinion. Both languages should be recognized in the legal Catalan framework, and the rights of the population should be preserved.
Great. Next question. Can we go to a member in the second row? Great. Yeah, great. Jump.
First of all, thank you very much for your talk. I'm interested in how important you think it is for the Catalan independence movement to galvanize support from liberal people in Spain, so Spanish people in Madrid, Valladolid, Malaga, Andalusia, wherever it may be. You touched on the refugee issue. Barcelona, I know, is supporting a refugee city plan to try and push the central government in the Congreso to accept more refugees for Catalonia. And I wondered if you thought that issues like the refugee issue, which might engage with liberal people throughout Spain, would help to kind of garner a support for the idea of a referendum amongst other Spanish people beyond Catalonia, and whether or not you thought that that might have a bigger impact upon Mariano Rajoy.
Well, it's not easy for us to convince the rest of the Spanish population, because in their mind, Catalonia is not a nation. It is an autonomous community that belongs to the Spanish state. And if you are not a nation, you are only a region or an autonomous community, you don't have the right to decide your political future. This is why it is so difficult for Catalans to convince the Spaniards to accept a referendum. Let me say that there are some people in Spain that are backing us. Some people understand that Catalonia is a nation, and because they are fully Democrats, they also understand that if 80% of the population of a country asks for a democratic solution as a referendum, this country has to be granted to vote. I think that you may also take into account that the position of, I would say, all the media in Spain is a position clearly against the right to decide our political future in Catalonia. So if you are a Spaniard and you don't know Catalonia, and you have never lived there, the information you receive every day is Catalans are selfish, Catalans want to keep all the money, Catalans don't understand that belong to a superior nation, Spain, Catalans only want to speak Catalan, all these stories. And this is something that is in the end assumed by the majority of the Spanish population. This is why it is so difficult to convince them that a referendum would be the right and the positive solution. We are trying to make efforts in this sense, but without a great success.
Great. Next question, can we go to a member in the first row in the white jumper?
Hi, I was wondering what your thoughts were on the law of judicial transitority that it's just being announced, and whether you don't think that a process so important as the Catalan process is at the moment should be carried with more due diligence and with way less obscurantism and quite honestly just a will to deceive a lot of the members of the Catalan parliament. whether you agree with this narrative, and if you could maybe explain the floor and myself what this law consists of.
If I have understood the question correctly, let me say that in order to hold a referendum in Catalonia this year, we need specific legal framework that doesn't exist right now, because the legal capacity to hold referendums belong to the central institutions in Madrid. This is why 3 or 4 years ago we tried to negotiate with the central government the terms of an agreed referendum, but it was not possible. This is why we held the consultation, the non-binding consultation in November 2014, and this is why we held plebiscitary elections in September 2015. Now the commitment is to hold a referendum, a binding referendum. To hold this referendum, we need a legal framework, and this is what the Catalan Parliament is going to do in the next few months, to create specific legal framework in order to hold the referendum on independence. Beside that, the Catalan Parliament is also going to pass a law in order to start creating the legal conditions to substitute the legal Spanish framework by a Catalan legal framework. Because the aim we have is to tell people that they will be safe from the legal point of view. There are a lot of economic, social consequences of the process in Catalonia, so we have to make sure to all the people in the country that they won't have negative individual consequences as a consequence of the referendum and the process to independence. This is the reason of these laws that will be passed in the Catalan Parliament. I understand that you know that these laws will be appealed by the Spanish government to the Constitutional Court and will be immediately suspended by the Constitutional Court in Spain. This is something that will happen. So we will have a big tension between Madrid and Barcelona and a clash of legality in Spain, legality in Catalonia, legitimacy in Spain, and legitimacy in Catalonia. And if there is not a table to negotiate everything, the tension will increase. This is something that will happen this year.
Wait. If we can go all the way to the back on the right side in the blue jumper. Yeah.
Hello, thank you very much. Bona nit. So when the time comes that we, Catalan people, we have our own independent country, what role do you think science and research in general should play? In other words, do you think we should invest more in research to create our own country now that we will have our own tools? Thank you.
As you probably know, research and innovation are key points in Catalonia right now. Approximately 15 years ago, we made a great effort in order to develop science and research together with universities in our country. And I think, modestly speaking, but I think that we had quite a great success, Catalonia was not on the map of science and research a couple of decades ago, but right now Catalonia is on the European map of science and research. And this is thanks to the efforts that were made in our country and that are being made right now. But again, do we have all the tools and all the money to invest in science and research? The answer is no. We don't have all the tools. We don't have the whole capacity to regulate all the legal aspects. and we don't have enough money to invest in science and research and universities. So if we reach a Catalan state, we could have the legal capacity to intervene in this field, and we would also have enough money to reinvest in science and research in the next few years. Knowing that in the past few years, there are a lot of people in the country that are linked to science and research, people coming from other countries of Europe and the world that chose Catalonia as the country to develop their personal and professional careers. So we have again the talent, we have the people, and we have the assets.
Great. Next question. If we can go to the member in the sort of fourth or fifth row on the left.
Thank you, Mr. Mas. Two quick questions. One is in regards to the consultation you've been referring to. So the turnout was in the 30s.
The turnout was?
The turnout was in the 30s. I forget, 35% or something like that. What's your position on the conclusion that it was boycotted by a good 70% of Catalan population? That's the first one. And if you don't want to take 70% because turnouts are usually a lot less than 100, then maybe take the one for the 2015 election, which was around 78%.
75%.
So a boicott by half of the Catalan population to that referendum. The other one is in regards to who gets the right to vote for the potential referendum. So in terms of borders, the borders say Catalonia is the region that should vote on this. You're using the boundaries that that were established by the same institutions you're saying are corrupt, illegal, anti-democratic today. But and if you look back historically, the boundaries haven't always been as they are. So why should they get to vote? And if they get to vote, why wouldn't, for example, a city like Barcelona get the right to hold a referendum for their independence from Catalonia? Thank you.
Well, the first question was what is the minimum of participation to consider that the referendum would be valid? This is the question?
The question is what your opinion is on the fact that only 37% voted in that, the fact that it was boycotted by over half the population.
If the political parties defending the no vote try to boycott the referendum, there is a risk for them. Of course they can do that because the vote in our country is not obligatory, it's not compulsory. So you cannot oblige anybody to go voting. But if the political parties defending the no vote boycott the referendum, they are risking a very important position, because imagine that more than 50% of the Catalan population go to vote. As I said before, there are a lot of people in Catalonia that are against independence but for the referendum. So if the tension with Madrid goes ahead and they continue to put on trial democratic representatives of Catalonia just because they want a democratic solution. If all these things happen, maybe people who would vote no in a referendum would go to vote, and they would break ranks. They wouldn't follow the discipline of the political parties defending the no vote. And this is a risk for these parties, because if more than 50% of the population go to vote, then from the, I would say, the democratic point of view, the party is over. And if more than 50% of the people go to vote and a broad majority vote in favor of independence, the party is over, in favor of independence. So if I were if I were a member of a party defending the no vote, I would go to vote. Because if I wouldn't go, I would assume a lot of risk. And I don't think that this is an intelligent position. The second question, excuse me?
The second question is on who gets to vote. So
who gets to vote?
Yeah. So you're saying, oh, well, Catalonia, right? So if you consider Catalonia, if you look at it from a historical perspective, hasn't always looked. The boundaries haven't always been where they are, right? If you go back, as you did in the informal chat we had before, to the 13th century, what does that look like? So why is it this territory with boundaries that were established by the same institutions that then you're saying are illegitimate, anti-democratic, etc.? So why should they vote? And if they vote, then why wouldn't a city like Barcelona have the right to hold a referendum on their independence from Catalonia?
Well, because the answer is quite simple. Because we are a nation, and yeah, if you are a nation, the nation votes. I mean, when Scotland was granted a referendum on independence, nobody thought that Glasgow was a different story from Edinburgh. You can vote yes, you can vote no. But if you are a nation, you are a sole nation. We have in Catalonia, you maybe know that, we have a small land in the north of the Pyrenees called Vall d'Aran. It is a very small county, very small country. 7,000 people, only 7,000 people. They have their own language, the Aranese. When the when the Statute of Autonomy of this territory passed in the Catalan Parliament, the Catalan Parliament recognized the right to decide the political future of its country, of this country, to the people of the country. 7,000 people. So a very small population, but they have the right to decide their political future. But with this exception, the rest of Catalonia is a whole nation. So if there is a referendum, the 7.5 million people will be allowed to vote. Well, not the 7.5, of course, the 5.3 million people who are older than 18 years. And if one person is against the referendum, nobody will oblige this person to go to vote.
Next question, if we can go to member in the third row, I think it is, on the right.
Yes. Hi, Mr. Mas. You mentioned that you want to create the Denmark of Southern Europe, but in the process of your presidency of the Generalitat, you basically handed over governance to extreme left-wing groups that have very little to do with the sort of picture you painted. And in the process, since you became president, the political landscape has changed a lot in Catalonia. And I'm just wondering, to what extent do you think you can deliver on your promises when the key to governing the future Catalan state will be in the hands of people other than your own? Mm-hmm. And then secondly, when after so much dissension and so much fear among the Catalan entrepreneurial class, you should expect, like happened in Quebec and like might have happened in Scotland in the case of a vote of independence, a massive exodus of business to the rest of Spain. Mm-hmm. How can you promise the Denmark of Southern Europe in that environment?
This is something that I cannot promise, because what I explained before was my personal position and, let me say, the position of my political party. When the question is posed, what kind of country would you like to build in the future? My answer is the Denmark of the South. But other people in other political parties in Catalonia wouldn't say the same thing. The answer would be different. But again, if you are an independent country, then you will have various majorities in the parliament. In some periods of time, maybe you will have left parties ruling the country. In other periods of time, you will be center-right or liberal parties. So it will depend on the vote of the Catalan people as time goes by. But let me say again, the main problem now is that we don't have the tools to create a different country. And we need these tools. This is my opinion. Of course, there are other people in Catalonia that would like to build another country. For instance, one political party in favor of independence called CUP. This is an anti-system political party. They are against the European Union. They are against Euro. They are against capitalism. They are against free market. If once they run the government, probably they will turn Catalonia into Cuba. Maybe, I don't know. But if Catalan people vote for CUP, it will be their decision. I don't think so. I know a little bit about the structure of the Catalan society, and in my opinion, in my personal opinion, that would be the worst case scenario. But yeah, the worst case scenario. But there are a lot of political parties in Catalonia that could work seriously to build a very attractive country. Let me put another example. Take into account that Catalonia is a small country of 7.5 million people. You won't find easily another so small country that has had the capacity to create such an attractive capital town as Barcelona. So the reason is there are a lot of people with talent in Catalonia. There are a lot of people with interesting ideas, and there are a lot of people with the capacity to work seriously in order to create good things. For instance, like Barcelona. This is why I think that we probably would be able to create a country similar to Denmark in the south of Europe.
Great. Last couple of questions. If we can go to a member in the third row in the sort of striped jumper.
Hi. So, as you know, one of the principles of Western democracies, right, is the rule of law and the equality of everybody before the law. But then, in the last times, we have seen you personally and your party criticizing all the time judges and the justice system in Spain and in Catalonia, but not just because of the referendum, and also because of corruption and illegal funding of your party, allegedly, so far. So in this ideal Scandinavian Republic of Catalonia, will the rule of law be respected, or the powerful will still manage to do whatever they want?
If you the rule of law, you said, the rule of law, yeah. If you analyze a bit the history of Catalonia, you will reach the conclusion that Catalonia has always been keen of respecting laws. The rule of law, as you said. We are not people that like to act against the law or out of the law. Of course, we make mistakes. And if you make a big mistake, you have to be punished. But the mental structure of the Catalan society is not against legal frameworks. This is why we are trying to create new legal frameworks in order to vote. when we reached the absolute majority in the Catalan parliament in favor of independence, we could have taken the decision of declaring independence because we had our absolute majority in the parliament. But we didn't act this way. We said we have not reached the 50% of the votes, so we need a referendum. When you act like this, when you act this way, that means that you are fond of legality. You are fond of the rule of law. But if, on the other side, you have some people that use the law in order to prohibit everything, in order to send to trial people who let people vote, then this is not the rule of law. This is abusing of the legal framework. And it is not exactly the same. It is not exactly the same thing. I fully agree with you. The rule of law has to be respected. But you cannot abuse of the legal framework in order to prohibit everything. And this is the real situation we have in Spain right now.
I think we have time for one more question. So if we go to...
Two more questions?
Two more questions? If we go to member in the third row over here.
Hi. If you could clarify one thing that you've said with respect to the demonstration in favor of refugees in Barcelona. There were lots of people there, and they were asking for solidarity and open borders and welcoming people from other countries. So how does that fit with Catalan independentism and creating new borders? And that's my first question. The second is if you would like to reply to the London mayor that said the other day, there is no difference between those who try to divide us on the basis of whether we are English or Scottish and those who try to divide us on the basis of our background, race and religion. So this also could apply to Catalan independentism. Thank you.
Well, let me answer the first questions. The first question, it is not a matter of new borders. This is our position. We are not crazy in the sense that the future of Europe and the future of the world is not to put additional borders, but to eliminate borders. This is one of the great successes of the European Union, to avoid borders. So this is also my personal opinion. Now we have a general umbrella called Spain, but some of the Catalan people would like to substitute this general umbrella by another bigger umbrella called Europe. And if we stay in Europe, in the European Union and in the Euro, there will be no borders. Because who would benefit from new borders? Spain? Catalonia? France? I don't know if you are aware of some figures of our country. We represent about 16% of the Spanish population, but we account for 19% of the GDP and 25% of the overall foreign Spanish trade. That means that a lot of goods and go through Catalonia to the rest of Europe, and the opposite way around, from Europe to the rest of Spain through Catalonia. If you put borders in the Pyrenees or in Valencia or in Aragon, that would be negative for everybody.
But you do realize that if you decide to, if Catalonia becomes independent straight away, it would be out of the European Union immediately.
No.
it would need to be back into the European Union. At
This
least
is-
that's the position of the members so far, because that's what they have said for Scotland.
Yeah, but let me say that this is something that we don't know. This is something that we don't know, because there are not cases in this sense. There are opinions, but not real cases. You know that the European Union has not faced up to now a real case in this sense. If Scotland had voted in favor of independence, now we would have additional information about the position of the European institutions. But Europe, the European Union, has not a clear position on the split of members of the European Union. The case has not arrived yet to the European institutions. So we don't know what would be the outcome. My personal opinion is that at the beginning they would be against. They would say that we would be out of the European Union, but when a new European state would be created, then they probably would analyze the case in with another point of view, because I don't think that the project for the European Union is to send countries out. If these countries belong to the European Union, it is the case of Catalonia since 1985, when Spain joined the European Economic Union at that time. So there is not a real case up to now.
And
The last question?
Yes. Yeah. Can we go to a member in the second row?
Thank you, Mr. Mas, for addressing our questions. You mentioned that this secessionist process is one based on democracy, among other factors, and you have constantly referred to the Catalonian people as if it were an identifiable body of people. However, Catalonia has been part of the Spanish nation state ever since the notion of nation state exists, and therefore every Spanish citizen is equally entitled to establish, work, and live in Catalonia, to become Catalonian, so to speak. So I have like estrangement and a question. My estrangement is, can we identify the Catalonian people to make all these arguments sustain? And the question would be, if we cannot, then why deny the right to vote to every Spanish citizen in this so-called referendum?
Yeah, well, this is a very, I was going to say, this is a very interesting question. Let me give you my answer. When Scotland was granted the referendum in 2014, anybody thought at that time that all the British people had to vote? Nobody. It was clear that Scotland had a parliament with an absolute majority in favor of a referendum. They sat down at the table. They agreed the terms of the referendum. Remember that the initial position of the Scottish government was not a vote strictly on independence. In fact, their initial position was, we want a referendum with 3 different questions. 1, to keep the statu quo. 2nd, the Devomax. 3rd, the independence. And the British Prime Minister at that time, David Cameron, said, you have the right to vote, you have an absolute majority after elections in your parliament, so let's sit around the table and agree the terms for the referendum, but, he said, you are going to vote strictly on independence, in a binding referendum and with legal consequences, yes or no? And the Scottish people accepted this challenge, and they lost. And they lost, well, not the Scottish people, The Scottish people in favor of independence lost. That was the story. But nobody thought that everybody in the United Kingdom had to vote. In the case of Spain, I think that it is a similar case. If there is a referendum on the independence of Catalonia, Catalans have to vote initially. But if there is a majority in favor of independence after the referendum, and the Spanish constitution has to be modified in order to create a legal framework to make possible the independence of Catalonia, then all the Spaniards have to vote, because they have to modify their constitution. At that time, all the Spaniards should vote, but not before, not at the beginning. They should vote as a consequence of a modification, a reform of the Spanish legal framework, but not influencing in the will of the Catalan people. In Catalonia, you will have a lot of people saying yes and a lot of people saying no. We will see the outcome. But the decision has to be taken in Catalonia, because we are talking about the future of Catalonia, not the future of the rest of the regions of Spain, or Spain as a whole. But if the vote in Catalonia is for independence, then this vote has consequences in the rest of Spain. And in this case, the Spaniards, the Spanish people, should also be granted voting through a referendum, because the Spanish constitution should be modified.
Thank you.
So the first step is the vote in Catalonia, and the second step is the vote in the rest of Spain.
Great. I think this is all that we have time for this evening. May I ask you all to remain in your seats until our guests have left the chamber. But before doing this, please thank me, President Mas, for a great evening together. Thank you.